Today's global semiconductor industry is very unsettled, not only is suffering from the downward impact of the situation, the competition around the increasingly fierce. The US side wants to pull together Japan and the Netherlands to jointly implement export restrictions, Japan and the Netherlands and each with their own small thoughts, although Japan and the Netherlands reached a tripartite agreement with the US side, has also announced that it will restrict the export of certain equipment, but things are not so simple. For example, Japan recently introduced the first EUV lithography machine. Some foreign media directly said things were made a big deal. In the late 1980s, Japan's semiconductor industry was once very brilliant. At that time, the global semiconductor industry, for the first time, the big shift to Japan. Japan's rapid development of semiconductors, more than the United States, to become the world's first chip production power. In 1990, Japanese semiconductors accounted for about 50% of the global market share, and Japanese companies occupied 6 of the top 10 in the world. Among them, the decisive role is DRAM. The United States invented DRAM into the global semiconductor center. Later, Japanese DRAM later overtook the United States to achieve a reversal, and DRAM market share used to account for 80% of the world. But this also angered the United States. The United States began to suppress Japanese semiconductors, forcing 3 consecutive semiconductor agreements, so that Japan opened up the semiconductor industry intellectual property rights and patents, and opened the semiconductor market to curb the development of Japanese semiconductors. The focus is to directly sanction Toshiba and other Japanese companies, through the arrest of executives, phishing enforcement and other means, the Japanese semiconductor companies to collapse. At the same time, it also supported the development of Korean semiconductors, taking the opportunity to acquire the Japanese industry chain and absorb a large number of talents. Later, the rise of South Korea's Samsung, SK Hynix storage, the United States semiconductor share back up, Japan's semiconductor completely fallen, although Japan's semiconductor manufacturing aspects were collapsed. But Japan has an advantage in equipment and materials, such as photoresist and some other materials in a monopoly position. 14 of the 19 key materials Japanese production capacity accounted for more than 50% of the world. Semiconductor manufacturing equipment, Japan also accounts for about 30% of the global market share. This is why the United States to pull Japan together to implement the chip restrictions, and Japan actively cooperate, seemingly forgetting that it had been sanctioned. Japan followed the US implementation of chip restrictions, of course, also has its own intentions, that is, to take advantage of the opportunity to develop local semiconductors. To this end, Japan has been operating quietly. First of all, when the United States introduced the chip bill, taking out $52 billion in subsidies, inviting TSMC, Samsung, and others to build plants in the United States, Japan also took out subsidies and successfully invited TSMC to build chip plants in Japan. Secondly, Japan also followed the example of Biden held a chip summit. The Japanese Prime Minister invited the heads of TSMC, Intel, Applied Materials, Samsung, Micron, etc. to participate in talks, hoping that the 7 semiconductor giants can next expand their investments in Japan. TSMC Chairman Dayan Liu participated in the talks and said that he will continue to invest in Japan and is evaluating building a second factory in Japan. Samsung also expressed its willingness to expand its investment in Japan and is setting up a 30 billion yen R&D center in Japan. There is also Micron, which directly announced at the Japan meeting that it will invest 500 billion yen to set up a DRAM plant and introduce advanced EUV. Further, Japan also organized Toyota, Sony, SoftBank, Armorman, and other 8 Japanese companies, the establishment of a new wafer foundry Rapidus, in addition to the 8 jointly funded by the Japanese government subsidies of 70 billion yen. Plans to mass production of 2 nanometers advanced process in 2027. Technology and the US company IBM use, in order to achieve the goal, has completed the preparation of 1 EUV lithography equipment. In addition, the recent Japanese and South Korean side and ICE to start cooperation in the semiconductor. Japan's strength in semiconductors should not be underestimated, because of the advantages in materials and equipment, the most likely to create a non-US industrial chain, and in addition to EUV, Japan Nikon and Canon, and can produce a variety of other types of lithography. Now, the new Japanese wafer company Rapidus and the successful introduction of an EUV lithography machine, indicating that the ASML side of the EUV also allows shipments, the United States did not block. The Netherlands ASML is also happy to ship more EUV, who will refuse the order under possible circumstances. Japan's semiconductor rise again, the United States certainly do not want to see, but for the implementation of common restrictions, the current is also turning a blind eye. Japan is to take this opportunity to vigorously develop local chip manufacturing, but the US side will certainly no longer let it get bigger. However, Japan's style has always been vigorously develop the semiconductor, but also and the United States and South Korea to get closer and closer, naturally not good for us. In this regard, we must be wary, or to speed up the chip autonomy, completely get rid of foreign dependence. Japan, to increase the size of the semiconductor, is bound to further intensify global chip competition. To this media said, things are made big.